When I need answers about anything to do with personal growth, I go straight to my mom and my aunt. Here they are, Priscilla Babin and Tina Gilliat with the sister sauce.
Hi, everybody. I am Tina Gilliat. I'm here with my absolutely gorgeous sister, Priscilla Babin, who is shrinking before my eyes. We're all doing the Weight Watchers thing, the WW, as they call it now. And I'm so proud of my sister and my husband and myself for eating healthy and doing great things. And that's sort of kind of what we're going to talk about a little bit later, doing healthy things, because June 23rd is National Hydration Day. And so we'll be talking to you today about the importance of hydrating. But before that, I wanted to point out, oh, look, Priscilla has her hydration. I have a cup of coffee, and we're going to talk about coffee a little bit later, too.
We are.
Yes. But I wanted to point out that if you're watching on video, we have our pride frames, our rainbow frames with the LGBTQIA colors of the flags. Just want to say this is our third podcast, I think, in June, and it's the first time we're mentioning pride, but we just want to acknowledge that it is Pride Month, and we know that pride doesn't sit well with some people. It's not pride in the sense that it's a sinful kind of pride, but it's just being proud of who you are and not allowing the people around you to hurt you. And so we just want to encourage everybody to do as we do and be inclusive in your language and your love, and never put other people down for something you don't necessarily understand. Just Google it. Research it, read, be willing to research other point of views, and just remember that God's commandment is that we love one another and not
learn more, do better.
Talk smack. All right. So we are excited about today. Priscilla, you doing okay today?
Yes. I'm trying to focus on the positive, and that's what my hot sauce is about.
Oh, well, let's hear it, baby. Let's hear it.
Well, y'all know I often get some of my inspiration for my hot sauces and my marinades from Nadia Boltz-Weber, who is a Lutheran pastor, and I receive her blog in my email. I think I've mentioned that before, and the one that she had this week really struck a chord with me. She was talking about how she recently got married and went on a long honeymoon, and they do a lot of physical activity like hiking and things like that, mountain climbing or whatever. Nothing too extreme because they're our age, but they're grown-ups, and they aren't like professional fitness people or anything, but she's active. She does yoga and stuff, and she likes the outdoors. I am not an outdoors person, but she is. But she was talking about how back in like 2020, 2021, somewhere in there, she had gone and done this hiking trail experience. I think that's what it is. The way she talks about it, it's like she assumes everybody knows what it is. I'd have to look at it a little further, but I believe it is a trail that you can follow and see beautiful things. And she felt like she missed out on a lot because various things happened. Like she was feeling ill one day, and one of the days, the weather was really bad. So I don't know if it's things that happen all in one location or if it's a place that you travel through. I'm not really 100% sure, but she missed out on a bunch of stuff. That's the main point. And so when they were planning their honeymoon, she wanted to go back and do this again with her new husband. And I think she was alone before or with friends. And she said, okay, this is the stuff we're going to make sure that we hit these points because I missed all of this last time. So she had these things planned out in her mind. And I mean, there was some things that were superficial, like better moisturizer and lip balm and things like that because you're outdoors. And those things are easy, to plan for, but you can't necessarily, especially outdoors, it's hard to plan for some events because stuff happens, right? And also in life, things happen. And so what happened was they missed almost all the same things again, and almost for the same reasons, like the weather. They had a bad day of weather. They had at least a day or two where she was not feeling well for, she had a cold or something. And so she got really bummed out, and she was like, what's wrong with me that I can't get these things that I want to see? I can't get to do these things I want to do. It just gets foiled every time. And she was very feeling sorry for herself and down, on everything. And she realized, and this is a quote from her blog, "This is the issue with having expectations. When I have a predetermined set of outcomes that must be met in order to be pleased with an event, I set myself up for less satisfaction, not more." Deep thoughts, right?
Yeah.
And so she had to start thinking, how can I put a positive spin on it? How can I get out of this funk that I have sunk into, feeling bad about my experience and making it a bad memory? How can I make it a better memory? And she said, here, you have to ask yourself positive questions. And she says, here's a good one. What beautiful thing caught me by surprise? Or what amazing thing happened that I never anticipated getting to experience? And for her, in her situation, she names one thing. She said there was more than one thing, but one of the things that really struck her was she didn't know that much about storks. And she got to see a lot of storks, and it sent her on this deep dive, and she learned all about storks, and she got
Wow. That's awesome.
really, really intensely interested in storks and took a lot of stork pictures. And here's some fun facts about storks, just because we're on the topic. They form monogamous pairs. The males and females take turns sitting on the eggs and feeding the young. Their wingspan can be up to 7 feet wide, and there was an ancient Greek law that stated that killing them was punishable by death. Wow. Oh, also, Germans used to believe that storks had human souls, which is really weird, but interesting. Anyways, I digress. But she says she finishes up by saying, I guess at this point in life, all I can really hope for is to have the distance between my selfish, immature, and cranky reactions and my more moderate, considered, mature responses to life's disappointments, frustrations, and to be a tiny bit quicker as I get older. Sorry for the little French, but
I might have to bleep that before we put it on YouTube and say that it's kid friendly.
Oh, that's true. Sorry.
It's okay.
A little sticker over my face or my lip flap.
Blur your lip flap, as they say. Yes. I love her. She's really got some poignant thoughts. Very interesting. Yes. There was some frustrations when we went to New York a few weeks ago. There was some frustrations during our trip too. And I had to keep reminding myself during the trip, you're in a new place and you're seeing all these wonderful things that you've never seen before. And everything in life is an experience, even when it's a bad experience, you learn and grow from it. So I love that though. Accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative.
The good thing is when you can get far enough beyond it too, some of the negative things where you can look back and laugh at them if there's anything, that can be humorous about it. Sometimes there's not. Sometimes people have really horrific experiences on vacations, but
oh yes. Yeah.
but you can, when you have a good sense of humor, it helps to
For sure.
dull that past pain, I guess.
Livia has always been my comic relief. She always says the weirdest things about bad stuff. And I'm like, I can always count on you to give me a different perspective, you weird kid. I love you because you're so weird.
ADHD gives you a whole different mind pathway.
For sure. For sure. Well, that was really good. So we can focus on the positive
Mhm,
and change our whole attitude and everything. And it's
mhm.
just pretending. I used to always say, you know, how my expression about act yourself into a feeling, it's not just with like avoiding procrastinating, but I really feel like when you act happy, you feel happier. And
Mm,
when you act like you love someone, even though you're struggling to love them, the love grows. And I've always believed that you can act yourself into an emotional feeling as well as acting yourself
mhm.
into an active, um, an action, or
Yeah,
it's the case maybe. But yeah,
I think that's
good, good stuff.
I think that's though because when you're trying to act like you feel a certain way, it really does guide your mind, and put changes your attitude, because you have to change your attitude. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I think that's a good thing to remember.
Yeah, good stuff.
I'm trying not to be taller than my screen.
You never thought you would have to struggle with your height being too tall, huh?
Yeah. Only when my chair
Thanks.
is too short.
All right. Well, moving on to our topic of the day, our meat sauce, which, as we mentioned earlier, is National Hydration Day. We're going to
Woohoo!
share some truths and myths about hydration. We're going to give you some tips for staying hydrated and drinking water. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some fancy technology that might help you. So we'll start with the truth about hydration. Priscilla, why don't you share the first myth about hydration and tell
Oh,
us what the truth is?
I feel like some of these we have talked about in the past when we've talked about
We
health and
have.
stuff, but I always say, what do I always say? If it's important, it bears repeating, right?
Oh, for
I
sure.
think with hydration is so vitally important to your well-being that I was telling Tina y'all the other day that my kids think that I'm like this hydration Nazi, like because my first answer whenever they say they don't feel good is, "Are you drinking enough water?" Or they'll tell me they're going to do something. I'm like, make sure you drink water, I'm always on it. But the first myth is if you're not thirsty, you're probably not dehydrated. Not true. In fact, thirst does not always correlate with hydration. Fluid levels can drop by 2 to 3% of your body weight before you even realize that you're thirsty. And it gets worse the older you get too. Your natural thirst diminishes over time, which is why a lot of elderly people get dehydrated so easily. So you got to watch your old people, folks. They'll just be drying up like little sponges and be like SpongeBob in that episode where he goes to Sandy's tree dome and he's going, water, be all dried up. So they say a better way to tell if you're drinking enough fluids, it's gonna sound gross, but it's easy to do, is to look at your pee pee. Go in when you use the bathroom and you urinate, to use the technical term, because I'm an adult and I can do that. You just take a glance and see, what color is it? If it's dark, the darker it is, the more dehydrated you are. The clearer it is, the more well hydrated you are. So if it's very yellow, drink yourself some water. That's the tip. So, and if it's really brown, call the doctor. Call an ambulance. Get an IV. Although
But
there are
you
some
just had a
medications.
snowball. You just drank a green snowball. Don't
Yeah,
panic.
that's true. There are some food additives and medications that can change, so be aware of that when you're looking. So
Very interesting.
if it's
Yeah,
blue, then you panic. No.
That was always my thing. I used to say, but I'm not thirsty, so I'm not dehydrated. And now I know I was lying. Myth number 2 is that you can't drink too much water. More is always better. And while I don't believe that would ever happen to me because I don't drink enough water and I need to drink more, I do have a friend that actually drank too much water one time and had a toxic reaction. And it's rare, though. I will say that it is rare. It usually only happens to people that have other pre-existing conditions, but it's called hyponatremia. It's known as water toxicity. And it's a condition where the sodium levels in your body get dangerously low because of an overabundance of water. So you're flushing all the sodium out of your body. And some of the symptoms include confusion and nausea and headaches, and you can even go into convulsions. And my friend's mom was she was fasting. And so she was drinking a lot of water and trying to stay hydrated through water since she wasn't eating as well. And she must have had one of these pre-existing conditions. I think she had so some of the pre-existing conditions they mention are congestive heart failure, kidney failure, Addison's disease. And they say that endurance athletes are susceptible to this, especially if you're a novice runner and you're running a lot and hydrating a lot, you can develop water toxicity. So it can be fatal. My friend's mom actually passed out on the front lawn of her house while she was mowing the lawn. And she had been hydrating because she was worried she was going to be dehydrated with all the stuff she was doing and not eating. And she overdid the water. And thankfully, one of her neighbors was outside also mowing his lawn, and he saw her pass out and got her help immediately. And she was fine a couple of days later. But she did have to go in the hospital and have her sodium replenished and everything. So it is a myth that you can't drink too much water. But the good news is it doesn't happen often. And as long as you are healthy in other ways, you shouldn't have an issue with it. And it's just important to maintain your electrolytes. That's another thing that gets flushed out when you drink a lot of water. Which brings me to myth number 3, Priscilla.
Yeah. Myth number 3 says sports drinks are the best choice to rehydrate after intense exercise. And that is not necessarily true. No matter what you see on the television and all the commercials, the fancy commercials where the sports drinks turn your sweat colors and in the commercial. That was real confusing for my kids when they came out with that commercial. They were like, when I drink this, how come my sweat doesn't turn blue? Well, that's only TV magic. But the problem with sports drinks, they actually, and I thought this really struck me because I didn't know this, they include hydrogenated oils, which can be harmful to your thyroid.
Oh my gosh, I'm glad you said that. I
Did
did
not
not
know
realize
that.
that.
Many sports drinks also contain high fructose corn syrup. I knew about that, and a large amount of sugar, which can cause dramatic spikes in your blood sugar levels. And plus, if you're on Weight Watchers, you don't want to be eating a lot of sugar, or for whatever reason, if you're diabetic or something. Do sports drinks have a place in healthy hydration? Well, if you do enough long strenuous workouts, like 60 minutes or more, they can help replenish your fluid and electrolytes. And I mean, that was the whole point of them being created by Dr. Cade at the University of Florida, which I have met him. He passed away years ago, but he invented it when they were having trouble with football players passing out during practices. So he knew science and his wife knew cooking, and they got together and they made Gatorade, and now there's lots of other ones similar, but you want to be very careful with those drinks. Don't overdo it, and don't don't forget to consider what's on the labels, so. And there are some that have lower sugar in them or no sugar. So those are ones you can look at, and they're great for certain things, like when you're doing colonoscopy prep.
No.
Drink the clear one. And then if you pregnant women who have morning sickness, a little bit of Gatorade, not a ton, but a little bit of Gatorade can help with that sometimes. And there's other times when a little Gatorade or Powerade or whatever has the right place. But if you want to do something better, and you've been real active and you're trying to hydrate and you just want something with more taste, there's lots of other sugar-free water additives, which we'll mention more about later probably, but you can also infuse your water with some fresh fruit or mint. Ooh, mint and cucumber. It's very refreshing in the summer, I will say. I have had.
Never been a mint fan, but I like mints, but I don't like mint in anything. Like I don't like to flavor it, but it sounds refreshing. I just don't know that I would like
I like mint
it.
iced tea. Mint
But I
iced
will
tea.
say that, I've had an issue with migraines, and when I went through many years of neurology and all kinds of testing and everything and tracking my triggers, and one of my triggers was not eating. And and also just so if I would go a long time without eating in the morning, I would get a terrible migraine, very bad. And so my doctor felt like part of it might be depending on whether or not I drink coffee, caffeine withdrawal. And the other part of it was my electrolytes dropping. So when I was going to go through my colonoscopy prep, I shared that with my doctor. I'm like, this is my biggest concern and the first time I did the prep, they never told me. They said, you can't have coffee, you can't have food. They didn't tell me anything to do to avoid the migraine. And I got a terrible migraine and was trying to drink the stuff and kept throwing it back up. And it was just the most awful experience. So the next time I had to go through that, I told my doctor about my previous experience, and he said, you're not going to get a migraine. And I said, I'm telling you, I will. If I cannot eat or drink my coffee, I'm going to get a migraine. And he's like, no, you're not, because you're going to drink Gatorade. And he said, just find the clear one and drink the clear Gatorade and you'll be fine. And so that's what I've done every time, as you know, we have to go every 5 years. And so I do the Gatorade, and it really does help with that. I don't drink a whole lot, I just drink one bottle, but then I do water the rest of the day. And it's very helpful, very helpful. So the next myth is that drinking liquids is the only way to stay hydrated. And that's not true. You actually get about 20% of your hydration from food. And so 20% of your fluid is obtained through foods and that have high water content. My husband probably gets 75% of his because he eats so many melons. He loves, I love cantaloupe, but it's not as filled with water as watermelon. My husband could eat watermelon all day long. He loves watermelon. It's like his go-to snack. So watermelon is one of the things they mentioned. Cucumbers, you talked about that, Chris. Strawberries, I'm allergic to, and grapefruit. Spinach and watermelon soups, broths, those kind of things are typical ways to get fluids in without actually drinking water. But you have to be careful because if you're watching your sodium intake, a lot of those soups and things like that are high in sodium. And so if you're like me and you're on blood pressure medicine, you maybe want to be careful about that. But foods can also have the opposite effect on your fluid levels, because if you eat like a lot of potato chips, you get thirsty when you eat a lot of potato chips. Those foods can contribute to dehydration because they prompt the body to draw water from the cells. And so the Food and Nutrition Board recommends limiting your sodium intake to 1,300 milligrams a day if you're over 51. And then when you're over 70, even lower, 1,200 a day. And, if you don't have an issue with dehydration or high blood pressure, it's a different story. But yeah, definitely be careful about that.
Well, our next one is the myth of everyone should drink 8 glasses of water a day. Now, amongst the several articles that we found, there is some debate on exactly how much water you should be drinking. And it is a shocking span between what one says is what you should be drinking and the other says. I'm just like, that's almost twice as much. Why is there such a difference? And if they're, if you're doing what they say in some of the articles, then I'm starting to think maybe you do need to worry about that hypernatremia. You're going to be drowning. But every person's hydration needs are unique and based on factors such as age, activity level, diet, health, and any medications you take. Also, how hot is it where you live? So it's going to vary somewhat for each person and for certain areas and ages and stuff. So, if you're in menopause and you keep breaking out in a sweat all the time, then you might need more water. Starting to
Not
sound
that
like
we would know anything
testosterone.
about that.
If you live in a swamp, you might need more water. But each person got to take it into account, and then it also depends on how big you are too. If you're a little teeny tiny person, you're not going to need as much water as a bigger person. So this article says, in general, you should take in 1/3 of your body weight in ounces of fluid daily. And it says fluid, it doesn't say water. And you got to remember, you get 20%-ish of your water intake from foods, probably. Of course, that depends on what you're eating too.
True.
And everything you eat or drink that has water in it. So, that's something to take into account. And I know previously when we looked this recommendation up, we had found half your body weight in ounces of water, which is a big difference between 1/3. It doesn't sound like that much. 1/3 and 1/2 sounds real close together, but it's not when you're talking about ounces of water. So if for the example they give, they say if you're a 150-pound person, then you should aim to drink 50 ounces or a little over 6 cups of water a day. So
That's
that
the
doesn't
1/3.
sound that bad. That doesn't sound too bad. 6 cups of water, it doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah, because 8
But
ounces is really not a lot.
no, it's not. And I mean, if you lined up a whole bunch of those little tiny water bottles, it would not look like, you might be, oh, that's a lot of little bottles, but they're barely 2 mouthfuls, And so I'm just gonna calculate real quick.
So I mean,
It
one
would be
bottle of
70.
water is 16 ounces.
Yeah, well, there's the
Regular.
different sizes, but the typical water bottle size, is 16 ounces. So it's 2 cups right there.
Yep.
So drink 3 of
3 of those a day.
bottles. That doesn't sound like that much. But if you did half your body weight in ounces and you were 150 pounds, you'd have to drink 75 ounces of water in a day, which is quite a bit more. And okay, from my personal, I'm not gonna tell y'all how much I weigh. But I used to have a goal when I was working out a lot of drinking 3 of this guy. Now nobody sponsors us. This is a Yeti brand. It's not Hydro Flask. Not going to comment on anything with any of the brands, but this is my Yeti. And I purchased it. They come like without the handle, and I purchased a handle for it. Mine's pink, but you can see here's one side and here's the otter side. Y'all can't see it because my screen is blurred probably, but there's my otter. It's on the outer side of my cup. I've made that joke before, but I will continue to make it.
Oh my gosh.
See, functional, as well as nice form, but it is 30 ounces. And my goal lately has been to drink at least 2, which would put me at 64 ounces of water a day, which, that's not too shabby. So I think that's pretty good.
Way more than I drink.
It's a good, you also have to, when you're struggling to stay hydrated, you can't make yourself, just like with anything else, and we talked about goal setting a while back, You cannot make yourself these big, hairy, audacious goals and expect to set them immediately. You have to have steps. So if you're not drinking any water, make it a goal to drink 1 cup of water a day for a week, and then see if you can increase it to 2, and just build. But, and I have gone on and on and on. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, myth number 6 is that coffee is dehydrating, and it's a myth. It's not. For a long time, the common consensus was that caffeine acts like a diuretic inside your body and it robs you of precious fluid. But more recently, scientists are debunking that. And there's one study that found there's no evidence of dehydration with moderate coffee consumption that has caffeine in it. Up to 4 cups a day, in fact. So I drink less than that. So I feel vindicated. I actually drink 2 cups of caffeinated coffee in the morning, and then I drink 1 decaf in the evening after
How big
that.
is your cup?
Huh?
How big is your cup? Are you using that one Eric gave you?
Not the one Eric gave me. Oh my gosh, that cup is so huge. I think it would hold
I
a
don't even know where to put
milk.
it.
Huh?
I don't even know where to put mine.
I think I put it on the counter in my kitchen and put mints in it. It's so freaking huge. I don't think I could ever drink as much coffee as was in it.
No. For reference, y'all, our brother knows how much we love coffee. So he bought us each a big white ceramic mug, and they're big enough we could put them on our head like a hat.
Yes, very big.
So yeah, they're huge.
Oddly, when I was at a conference a few weeks back, some of y'all may remember when I was stressing over my presentation, I wanted coffee, but it didn't even express that to my husband, but he knows how I am. Like I need my coffee in the evening. And he knew I had been stressed out all day about my presentation and he wanted to do something nice for me. So he went in search of coffee. Well, he discovered that in the lobby where we were having our conference, there was a coffee pot set up. And he went ahead and made the pot of coffee, but then he realized there were no coffee cups. And so he found like one of those pitchers that you use to pour foamed milk. It was like a big stainless steel little pitcher. And that's what he put my coffee in. And it was about the size of the cup that Eric bought me, or bought us. And so I thought that was funny. But yeah, I appreciate that I can drink my Java and not stress over my fluid intake because of it. Now, the challenge is for me to drink more than just coffee in the morning and coffee in the evening and an occasional bottle of water. I do for every meal. Sometimes I drink Diet Coke, but usually that's when I am having heartburn issues or I'm just super thirsty and I feel like I need something carbonated. But I usually do a bottle of water with every meal. Here's the thing though. I will drink maybe like this much of the bottle of water and then I'll leave it sit there all day. And then AJ will pick it up and drink the rest of it. So I don't really get the full bottle of water. And one time I started saying to him, stop drinking my water. If you don't leave it there, I forget that I didn't drink it and then I don't drink it. And so he stopped doing it, but then the water sat there for 2 or 3 days.
He can't drink it for you.
Yeah, I try. I really do try. I need to be better about it.
Everybody.
Even with, honest to goodness, even with Diet Coke or beverages that I like the taste of, I don't drink them all. They sit, I just don't drink a lot. If I have a glass of punch or lemonade or whatever with my meal, it is rare that I drink a whole glass of liquid with a meal.
It's a common problem.
Isn't that crazy?
I wonder if some of our childhood, of grandma saying, don't drink any of that before you eat your food, because they were always scared we'd fill up on milk or whatever.
I don't know. I don't even remember mom or grandma doing that, but I've just never, and mom's never been. I take after her. So I couldn't
What a big
inherit her
example.
artistic talent, but I inherited her lack of interest in liquids.
I like frozen liquids the best.
Oh, frozen cappuccino. I was on the Weight Watchers app last night looking at all the points of like a McDonald's frappe, and oh, was so disgusted. I said,
Oh,
okay, so clearly I know why I gained weight in the beginning. I mean, I kept blaming it on my thyroid, but then when I think back to a period there where I was drinking almost a large frappe from McDonald's every day, I'm thinking it was like 38 points for a large frappe. And
mm,
now I know why I gained weight.
well.
I'm sure my lack of thyroid didn't help, but still.
Well, we're gonna get back on the water, but I'm gonna forward you the Instagram account that I've been following where he tells you how to doctor up your Starbucks and make it less points. So
You
I don't think
doctor
they
it
do all
up
those,
to make it less points, or
well,
you
like
remove things.
changing ingredients, and it really helps
Wow.
to order on the app because then you don't have to talk so much, like explaining things to people. I hate
Oh my
explaining
goodness.
things. So
Yeah,
if you do it on the
I
app,
was
you can
thinking,
just click, click, click.
I was thinking that the other day. I said, it's too bad the Weight Watchers app. I love the Weight Watchers app. WW. I keep saying Weight Watchers, but they don't go by that name anymore. But I love the WW app. And I will say, I was saying the other day, it's too bad that you can't because you can go to the restaurant section on the app and say, show me everything at McDonald's, show me everything. And all the
Mhm.
points are there. I said, it's too bad you can't click on a Frappuccino and
Change the
it says
ingredient.
38 points, and then you remove the whipped cream and see how much of a difference it
Uh-huh.
makes, or
Or
the
switch to
syrup.
almond
Or,
milk or whatever, oat
yeah,
milk.
not that you could do that at McDonald's. It would confuse the heck out
No,
of workers.
that's the downfall of fast food, I guess, and not a
Yeah.
cafe. But
Okay, moving on.
our next myth is you can remedy dehydration by simply drinking more water. And in most cases, that's true if you're just a little bit dehydrated. But treating dehydration in older adults, remember we're talking about how old people don't drink as much water because they don't get thirsty as easy. It depends on that individual and their symptoms. So mild dehydration symptoms like a dry mouth, fatigue, headache, and muscle cramps, usually if you drink some water or an electrolyte based drink within 5 to 10 minutes, you'll be feeling better. But you can visibly see a recovery by that point if it's just mild dehydration. But if it's more serious, if it's moderate to more serious, then confusion, dry and sunken eyes, severe muscle cramps, low blood pressure, mobility problems, all those indicate a more serious need, and they would probably need to go to the hospital and get IV fluids, or if it's a constant problem all the time, they might have to go to the doctor and have subcutaneous fluids, which I used to have to get for my dog because he had kidney disease. But where it's kind of the same as IV fluids basically, but you're not strapped in all day. They just put in a little line and give you some fluids for 10 minutes or something, and you're free to go.
Yeah.
But then, or something more extreme like dialysis might be required depending on what you've got going on. So
Mm.
that is
I will say this too. It's sort of away from the topic, but if you are in a position where you have to go to the hospital and get hydrated, make sure that they don't just treat the hydration issue, that they look to see what caused it in the first place. Because remember, we had that issue with mom where
yeah.
4 trips to the emergency room to be hydrated within a few days, and she wasn't ill. She was just, well, she didn't appear, she wasn't vomiting or anything like that. There was no obvious reason she should be dehydrated. And it turned out to be medication she was on and a lot of other complications. So if you are in a position where you find yourself constantly getting dehydrated, check with your doctor and find out what's causing that dehydration. So yeah. Well, we have some ideas of how you can hydrate more, tips for drinking more water. I will mention that the myths that we covered were all from a website, are all from the Mayo Clinic, right? Or no, I'm sorry. The tips that we're about to give are from the Mayo Clinic. The myths were from the National Council on Aging.
Yeah.
So yeah, which is why a lot of their references were for older people, but older people are the ones who struggle the most with dehydration too. So, okay. So now we're going to talk about the Mayo Clinic's tips on some things that you can do to make yourself want to drink more water. And the first one is the one that I do, but I need to do it more regularly, and that is to flavor the water. I am just not a fan of water. I don't care for water. And if you add fruit to your water, or lemons or limes or cucumbers, as Priscilla mentioned, or mint, if you flavor the water in some way, it helps. I tried some liquid water flavor at Priscilla's house that was mango flavored, mango and watermelon, or it was two. I can't remember what pineapple and mango. Yes. And it was so good that I drank a whole bottle of water without even thinking about it. And I said, I've got to buy some of that for myself. And so I immediately went to the store and bought two bottles of it. And I'm ashamed to say that I don't think about it. And so I still don't drink as much water. But when I do, I'm more likely to drink the whole bottle of water because I enjoy the flavor. So flavor that water, flavor that puppy.
Yeah. And besides putting fruit and stuff in it, or the drops, because there's a great variety in those drops and the little powdered water packets, like they have that liquid IV. And I'll give y'all a little review, a personal review. The liquid IV stuff does taste kind of good, but it's not everybody's cup of tea, because if you've ever drank Pedialyte, it's kind of like that, because it adds this sort of a weird texture to the water. It's almost like melted jello, if you know what I'm saying. Like it thickens it a little bit. And if it's sugar free, I don't know, it's got a little bit of a sharp or a bitter edge to it. But if it depends, because you got to be careful and make sure you get the mixture right, because if it's too strong, it's going to taste bad. But it's not too bad. And if you taste, if you try different flavors and you like it, I would get smaller packs to start out and figure out which one you like. That's what I'm going to say about that. And there's also a cool brand from that is not by the other water flavorings, but if you go in the tea section by the teas, and I know I've said it before, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's either Twinnings or Twinings. It looks like Twinings, but the tea, they make these little jars of cold infused flavored water, little sacks, and it's basically like dried fruits and herbs and stuff that you can throw in your water cup, and it goes a long way. I can put one of those. It looks like a pretty little sachet. It looks like potpourri, but you put it in your water, and there's like 6 or 7 different flavors, I think, and mostly fruity kind of things. There's like ginger and lemon. That's really refreshing if you like ginger. But I can put one in this big guy and refill it a second time, and it still has flavor. Like it's strong in the first one.
So I have a question. Is it like a tea bag in that you leave it in the bag when you put it in your water?
Yes.
Okay.
It's like a little nylon pouch, like, so it's like fabric almost, and it's shiny, it's pretty. And but you can leave it in the water, or you can put it in there for a little while and come back and take it out and then drink your water, however you want to do it. But it's real easy to use, and you don't have to put hot water. You just put it in your cold ice water, and it will infuse in there. And like I said, I can get two big cups out of one. I wouldn't leave it sitting in there overnight because I don't know, it might get bacteria, but you know. But they're pretty good, and I like those. I like those a lot. I had all 6 flavors. I think I ran out of some. I don't use them every day, but those are good too. Another thing you can do is, like Tina was saying, how she tries to drink a bottle of water with the meal. You can tie your drinking to another activity that's part of your regular daily routine, like when you brush your teeth, if you drink a cup of water, when you go to take your pills in the morning, if you take pills or supplements in the morning, make sure you drink a whole glass of water with them and not just a sip or whatever. You can, or if you have like TV time, you can bring your water over with you by the TV and have a goal of drinking the whole thing while you're watching your TV show or whatever. So that's a good tip. And the next one, Tina.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought you were continuing on.
It was short. I
Well,
talked
the
enough
next
about the other.
one is sort of continuing on from what we just talked about a little while ago about getting your water or your fluid intake from food. And so they suggest eating your water intake by eating lots of fruits and vegetables with high water content, like watermelon, cucumbers, lettuce, celery, cantaloupe, any kind of melon has a lot of liquid. So yeah, that's another way to do it.
Mm-hmm. And then of course, another tip is to track your water. So if you know how many ounces are in the cup you're using and you fill it to the top, or if you have I have some friends who have water bottles that actually have the ounce lines on them so they can see there. So track your water, you can track it that way. And there's tools you can use, and we're going to give y'all an article in the show notes with some smart water bottles and stuff like that. So you guys can actually have tools. And there's there's all kind of stuff. There's things you can strap on your water bottle. There's special water bottles that have little digital screens on them and all kind of craziness. Or my smartwatch, I don't have it on right now, or I'd show y'all my smartwatch that I use that tracks my steps, and it takes my pulse and all kind of stuff. It also has a water reminder, and I forget how often it goes off. Maybe it's once an hour or something, and it blinks and it buzzes, it vibrates, and it has a little water glass on it, and it says drink time, drink time.
Kind of like the ones we used to have at work that would say time to move, time to move. It would pop up on the screen and the screen would freeze and you couldn't do anything because they wanted you to get up from your desk and walk around a few minutes. I used to be like, come on, I'm trying to work here.
You know what that reminds me of? The episode of The Office, of course, where it's when they first have been bought out by, I don't want to give too many spoilers, but by now y'all should have seen The Office. If you haven't watched The Office by now, shame on you. I'm just joking, but yes, shame on you. Anyway, they get bought out by another company, and the new company sends somebody, a representative in, and he brings them all water bottles, aluminum water bottles. And Michael gets very frustrated with this because they have one water cooler with the little tiny cups, and everybody, uses up all the thing of water, filling up their water bottles. And he's aggravated, and he says, I can't use that because I have to get up and make 10 tiny little water trips and go to the cooler every day so I can go around and I can say hi to Stanley and I can do all this stuff. And he has this routine, and having that routine, and he's drinking his water. Now, I don't know if that means he was hydrated because it's Michael, who knows? He just doesn't like change. But having an aluminum water bottle is a different way to track your water. So both are good. And don't drink orange juice out of metal containers. It's a bad idea. There you go.
Well, I was going to say, even the Weight Watchers, the WW, app has a water tracking thing. I don't know if you've noticed that, but
Mhm.
when you're tracking your meals every day, there's also a place at the bottom where you can click every time you drink 8 ounces of water. And I started doing that faithfully in the beginning, and I don't fool with it much
Yeah, I
anymore,
forget
but I need to do
sometimes.
that. All right, so the next one is to challenge a friend. So kick off a healthy competition with a friend or your kids or your spouse to see who can meet their guzzling goal the most often. I don't think I would say who can meet the goal first. So we're going to each drink 96 ounces of water today. Go. Don't do that. But that might not be a good thing. But definitely it helps to have friends doing healthy
Mhm.
things with you. I love that
Yeah, an
Priscilla and AJ and
accountability
I are
buddy.
both doing WW together. Yeah, it does help. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the next tip is to take it to go. So like if you have a big old Yeti cup like mine, or my daughter Renee, who lives in Texas where it's nice and hot there too. She got people knew she liked to carry her water bottle around. She's very well hydrated. Don't ever have to remind her to drink water. That kid loves water. That lady, I should say, not a kid anymore. But she has a huge water bottle, and it's cumbersome, and that's one of the reasons people don't carry their water bottle around, is because it's cumbersome. So, but she was determined to carry her water bottle around, and one of her friends found this awesome handbag that's a purse on one side, and it has this big rectangular slot on the other side where you can stick a big old water bottle in. And it's cute too. It's not ugly, it's cute. And so that's really cool. So you can get a whole sack to put your water or you could get one of those things that they wear in the desert, that has like a pouch. You fill it with water, and you can, like, 52 ounces of water or whatever, and you can strap it on your back and has a straw. Carry your water.
Most
Might be
people fill those
suspicious.
with beer, I think.
Well,
I would
that's
be
the
filling
hat.
mine with wine. See, there are two beverages that I actually drink to the bottom of the cup, and that's wine and coffee. Anything else, sodas or water or milk, it didn't happen.
Mine used to be chocolate milk.
Oh, really? Now, see, I could
That's
probably drink a whole glass of chocolate milk. I'm
mm,
not that fond of white milk. I mean, I drink it, but if I was eating a pack of Oreos, I could finish a whole glass of milk. But then it would kind of defeat the purpose of being healthy and drinking milk if I was eating a whole pack of Oreos. The last
um,
idea on the list to help you hydrate and drink, remember your water, is to alternate your drinks. So if you're like me and you do coffee in the morning, as soon as you finish one cup of coffee, switch to a bottle of water. That would be great if I ever finished anything, but I don't typically finish liquids. Even coffee, AJ has to keep saying, drink your coffee, it's going to get cold. I'm just not a drinker, you guys.
mm,
I don't think he ever has to tell me to finish my wine, though. That usually goes pretty quickly. At
mm,
least it does when I poured a glass. I have to say, I'm terrible about finishing a bottle of wine. If I open a bottle and it's only me drinking it, I drink one glass out of it and then it sits there and I keep saying I need to finish that bottle of wine. But I did that last night. I don't usually drink wine except for on date night. And I drank a glass of wine last week one day after I was finished my workshops that I had to do, and I had been so stressed out. I said, I'm having a glass of wine when I get home. So I drank a glass of wine and then had the bottle sitting there. So then last night I was like, oh my gosh, that bottle of wine's been sitting there for a week. I need to drink it. So I drank another glass, but there's still at least another glass in there.
mm,
It's high in points. I have
mm.
to save my points to drink wine,
Yeah.
but it's worth
It can
it.
be done.
So Priscilla alluded to some of the smart gadgets that you can buy. And we found a great article about that on everydayhealth.com. So we're going to put that in our show notes.
Mhm.
But they really have some interesting ones. Was there any that stood out to you, Priscilla?
Well, there's a lot of them are actual water bottles that do different things, like whether they have an app that goes with it that has like a sensor or something, or ones that keep your water cold or have a thing to infuse with water, or one of them I think even has a Bluetooth speaker. And then there's a lot of phone apps that you can get that will remind you to drink. So there's a lot of similarities between them. There's even one that's an armband, but it only holds 12 ounces. So
Yeah, I'm like, I
not
saw
really
that.
sure.
The one that really appealed to me, but it probably cost a fortune. I didn't look it up. I probably should. But it's pure water. It's a self-cleaning bottle. It's called
Mm.
LARQ Lark. And you guys can look it up under livelark.com. It's LIVELARQ. But we'll link this article in our show notes. But I thought that one was interesting because it actually they said it regulates the temperature of the water, but every 2 hours it goes into this self-cleaning function where it purifies the water. I have no idea how it does that. It's interesting. Depending on how expensive it is, I might be interested in trying it.
There's a new water bottle, and I don't think I saw it on that list. But and I forgot what it's called. You probably find it if you Google it. It's got a special top on it that you put these little discs, and they have a scent, like fruit or whatever. And you put the little scented disc on around the top, and when you suck the straw, it pulls air from around this disc, and so it like scents the water, and you actually feel like you're tasting a flavored water, but you're drinking clear water.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
They're not
Yeah,
putting any kind of chemicals or additives in the water itself. You're
right.
just
You're just
smelling it, which changes your
right.
sense of taste.
Yeah. So, or
Interesting.
you're breathing in the smell. I don't know. I'm not really sure
That's
if any
interesting,
tests
though.
have done on that, but it does seem like an interesting concept, and a lot of the people uh who are being sponsored by that company have stated that they like it and that it works really well. So that might be something for somebody to try if they are having a goal of drinking more, unflavored water, but still get the benefit of the flavor if they don't like water. And I have been commissioned by Clover to pass on a small bit of sweet and sour sauce to y'all, that they hate drinking water, and that the only way they can drink water is if it is flavored, because they say water sucks. But
That's from the movie The Water Boy.
yeah,
Water sucks. It really, really sucks.
but it doesn't. It's good for you. Drink your
It
water.
is. It doesn't suck. But I
Get it any
clicked
kind of way you can get it.
just out of curiosity, I clicked the link to go to that Lark bottle Purvis
Mhm.
cup. And you can buy them. They come in two different sizes. You can buy them 17 ounces or 25 ounces.
Mm.
The insulated one, which is the one I'm referring to, actually will keep your water at the same temperature for hours and hours, 24 hours. And it'll keep it cold. If it's a hot liquid, it'll keep it hot for 20, or I'm sorry, for 12 hours. Now you can buy the non-insulated one. And it's the problem with the insulated one is that it's very heavy, but most insulated water cups are, right? But you can buy the non-insulated one that's supposedly very lightweight, and it's a little bit cheaper. It's not, but it's bigger. So the 24 ounce one is $89 and the 32 ounce is out of stock right now, but I would imagine it's under 100 or maybe a little more than 100.
Mm.
But the insulated one, 17 ounces 99 and the 25 ounces 118. But
Ooh,
I don't know if I would want to spend that money on a cup. Do you
yeah.
know AJ was telling me that he is shocked by the number of, he occasionally has to go to the lost and found at the ballparks when he's out there if he loses a clicker or whatever when he's umpiring, he'll go look for it in the lost and found. And he said he cannot believe how many insulated water bottles there are in that thing. He said,
Mm.
you know, it's just insane how many of those people leave at the park.
Yeah, that's like the number one thing in lost and founds at school is water bottles.
Interesting.
And
Very
and
interesting.
I've bought so many dang water bottles over the years, struggling to find ones that are spill proof or leak proof or,
Sure.
kid proof.
Yeah.
Because they get broken or they, we've had occasions and it's really bad when your kids are forced to use netted or clear backpacks and their water bottle top somehow comes open, everything is wet, and if they're using flavored water, it gets to be colorful too. All their textbooks. So it's a struggle sometimes. I will say, I'm trying to think of the name of the one that my kids use. Owala. It's OWLA. I really like those. Those, if you're looking for one that stays closed and you can put it, carry it around safely without it popping open very easily. The Owalas that have the pop top where you have to push the button. And when we first got them, my kids struggled a little bit and had to use both thumbs to pop the top open, but they have lasted and my kids seem to like them. Joey dropped his and it got a little dent in it and he said it was leaking, but I think he just wasn't closing it tight enough. I don't know, because it doesn't seem to be leaking to me, but they come with a straw that goes in the bottom of the lid, but the top part is like a drinking spout. So you could
Right.
take the
Kind of
straw
like
out
the
and
sippy
drink it
cups.
like
Yeah.
drink it like this, but if you have the straw in, you just put your mouth over the spout. And there's a big opening in the lid too, but you can just put your mouth open the spout and sip it if you want to use the straw part. If you don't want the straw part, you just take the straw out. But those are really good and they come in a variety of sizes. And there's a locking little handle that flaps down to lock it closed so you can't accidentally open it. But if you're carrying it around, you can flip that up and use it as a handle to carry it, like a little
Sure.
thing. And so the Awala ones are really good. And that one that I was talking about before with the smell thing is called Air Up, just like it sounds, AIR space UP, up, Air Up. I'm trying to find, I found a review on Good Housekeeping. So I was trying to figure, you know, if it's worth it. And they gave it a good review and said everybody liked it. And now I lost the dang article, but I had it. It's gone now. But I don't know how much excuse me. I don't know how much the water bottle itself is, but the pods that you slip over the top that have the fragrance is like 3 of them for like $13 or something, and they last for almost 4 gallons of water. So you do have to, it is like a continuous investment to change those pods out, but you would, if you were buying water flavoring, it'd be about the same probably if you were buying the little bottles of water flavoring or the mixes, the powdered mixes. So
I Googled it quickly and I will say that you can get them as cheap as $12.88 from Walmart.
Mm.
And then they have the little refills with different, it's interesting, or the little rings. And they have pictures on them. So like lemons or green peas or a mixture of fruits. It's different pictures on the little filters so you can see. But it's kind of interesting. I don't see a review. There's a review on another site where it's 4 out of 5 stars is the overall review. Yeah. So, very interesting. The prices range on these things. It's crazy how the prices can be as little as, like I said, $12 all the way to $150, depending on what you buy. But we'll link that article with all the smart choices
Mhm.
in the show notes, so everybody can take a look at those. And I'm hoping that with our discussion, we have encouraged people to hydrate better.
Mhm.
Happy
And if you're
National Hydration Day, everybody.
um, drink up, and if you're a person who is good at drinking your water and you have like a special trick or a tip that we didn't list, holler it at us because I'd love to know.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to hear what other people do.
Or
Yeah,
if you have a
for sure.
favorite bottle or
Um,
whatever.
check out though the opportunities for those smart tools. I think some of them are
And the
interesting.
apps.
I'm curious about the Bluetooth speaker. I'm gonna have to go read more about that.
It looked like an old school thermos.
I know it did. I did see the
Big
picture of it,
thing.
but I didn't read the description. So it did. It's entertaining, but it did look like an old school thermos. I agree. Oh my.
Yeah. Well, do you have a marinade you want us to marinate in?
Yes,
Marinate?
I do. I shared with you earlier this week that I had seen a video on TikTok, I think, or Instagram, maybe. It was one of these Karen videos. And I think it was, I don't know for sure that it was in the United States. It might have been in Canada, but somewhere a person was riding a train and they got on the train and sat across from an older woman who was in her 70s, and the older woman immediately asked them to move to another seat because she wanted to be able to stretch her feet out. Well, the younger woman, who was the one that was recording the video, didn't start the video right away. So the whole exchange prior to the video start is left out, other than that the young lady is narrating and saying, this is what led up to this. And she shares that when she sat down, the woman asked her to move and said, look, there's plenty of seats on the train. Can you please move to another seat so that I can stretch out? I want space and you're invading my space. Well, the woman apparently wasn't extremely nice about it. But so the other woman was like, I'm not going to let people walk all over me. No, I'm not going to move because there's plenty of room for your feet and it's fine for me to sit here. And apparently the exchanges got more and more heated between these two women, to the point that the older woman actually slid down in her seat. She had to slide down quite a bit. She was almost sitting on her back, and stretched her legs across the aisle and put them on top of the younger woman. And the younger woman started using foul language and cursing at her and is recording the whole thing at this point and saying, get your feet off of me, expletive, expletive. You're a crazy person. I have every right to sit here. And she said, I told, the older woman is yelling at her, I told you that I wanted to be able to put my feet up and you wouldn't listen. And they're going back and forth. And I'm watching the whole thing and thinking the older lady is definitely insane. She has just totally lost it. But I'm also not thrilled about the behavior of the younger woman, because I'm thinking you can see in the video that there are plenty of other seats available in the train.
Mm.
And so I was thinking, I get standing your ground and not letting people walk all over you. But at some point before it escalated to this outrageous argument between these two women, I'm thinking, why didn't this younger woman just get up and move? I mean, it's the principle of the thing. Well, yeah, for your principles, you are now admittedly having a panic attack because she's saying that her heart started racing and she was breathing heavy and she thought she was going to pass out or whatever. She's going into, and I'm like, but you did that to yourself because of your principles. And it always reminds me of the movie with Tom Hanks, that thing you do, where the one guy in the band says, I'm standing up for my principles. I'm alone in my principles. And everybody's laughing about it and kind of making fun. And I thought the same thing, was like, you're being ridiculous because of your principles. She's obviously unhinged, the old woman. And so you are trying to do something, have a rational conversation with an irrational person, an illogical person that is not going to come around. And so my thought about that and my encouragement to everybody out there in listener land is that you marinate on the fact that sometimes it's just not worth it, and you should de-escalate situations before they get that bad. I'm always disappointed when I see police videos where the one side or the other, because it's both sides and it happens on both sides, but you'll see where an exchange between police and someone that they're questioning goes bad because one or the other has no de-escalation skills whatsoever and doesn't understand that if you just calm down and talk like rational people, sometimes you will get to a solution without all of the foolishness. And AJ watches a lot of those auditor videos, and I think I've mentioned it before, where yeah, you might be in the right, but if you're acting like a turkey in the process and you're escalating things instead of trying to calmly de-escalate a bad situation, then you're wrong too. And I went in the comments and was like stressing because I wanted so desperately to comment and say, I know everybody's agreeing with you and thinking for you because this woman was putting her feet all over you. But if you had just got up and moved when she asked you to move originally, even though it was not a fair request, because you had every right to sit where you sat, this whole situation could have been avoided. Were you just trying to create a 15-second, viral video for yourself? Because that's what you did essentially. And she was getting thousands and thousands of comments. But I scrolled through the comments until I found somebody that shared my same thoughts and was very excited to see that other people had the same thought process that I did. The one woman commented and said, does anybody else feel like me that this whole thing could have been avoided if you had just gotten up and moved to a different seat when the lady asked you to? I get that you were standing up for your rights, but sometimes it's just not worth it. It would not have been that much of an inconvenience for you to stand up and move 3 feet across the aisle to the other seat. And a couple of people chimed in and said, but that's not fair. Everybody has a right to sit where they wanted. But then other people chimed back in and were like, yeah, but was it fair to put everybody else on the train through your foolishness and this ridiculous exchange? Whereas everybody could have had a peaceful ride if you had just freaking moved 3 feet to a different seat. And that right there in a nutshell says it all. I mean, you are not only creating your own little battle, but you're involving everybody on the train at this point. Everybody's blood pressure gets raised. That's why I have such an issue with road rage. And my husband knows this. He has road rage, and we talk about it all the time. And I have looked and looked and looked on the internet. How does road rage affect the people in cars? Wanting to show AJ and say, see this article where it says your road rage is actually causing me mental disturbances. And I've never found anything about that. And I mean, he's pretty good at controlling it. I tease him all the time because he's an Uber, or he used to be an Uber driver. He's a Lyft driver now. And I'm like, I know you don't act this way in front of your Lyft people. Why do you feel you have to act this way when you're on the phone with me and I'm at home minding my own business and I have to hear you cursing somebody out, or putting me at risk when you're in the car flipping somebody off that's probably going to pull out a gun and shoot you, So anyway, just my thoughts, de-escalate. If you have an opportunity to de-escalate a situation and avoid a bigger conflict, and no, I'm not saying that you should let people walk all over you all the time, but if in order to settle things down and de-escalate, all you have to do is minorly, is that a word? Minorly? Yeah. Minorly inconvenience yourself, then do it. De-escalate if you can. That's my thought.
Deep
So think
thoughts
about
today.
it's not worth it sometimes. And I do get, like when you're in a situation where people repeatedly abuse you in a certain way, that you speak up to that person and say, okay, look, I've put up with this for a long time. I'm not going to put up. But a stranger on the train, a crazy stranger at that. No,
Yeah.
not worth it.
Nope. Amen.
So it is, as this podcast episode drops, it's National Hydration Day. So we hope you've enjoyed the tips that we've shared in our meat sauce. And we look forward to seeing you guys again next week. So for now, make yourself a priority.
And take care of you.
And drink your water.
Yes.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us. Make sure you subscribe to keep up on all the latest sauce. See you next time.